Welcome back to my videos. Thank you for watching. This is the second day of my tour in the United Kingdom. I am at the Gwynedd Hotel in Gwynedd in the Gwynedd Pass. This hotel was established in the year 1811 and has long been popular as a base for mountaineers and scramblers. Its particular claim to fame was having hosted Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay while training for their first successful ascent of Mount Everest in 1953. There are many photographs of Hillary and Norgay and other climbers on display, and there's other memorabilia such as the boots that you saw hanging from the ceiling. The hotel is at an elevation of 935 feet or 285 meters, and it sits in the Gwynedd Pass at the junction of the A4086 road from Cathedral to Llanberis and Caernarfon and the A498 from Bethgelert. The pass is at the head of Nant Gwynedd and the Nant Gwynedd rivers, and it's close to the base of Eryri or Snowdon, which is, you will probably know, the highest mountain in Wales. It's also the highest mountain in Britain south of the Scottish Highlands. It has an elevation of 3,560 feet or 1,085 meters. Now, this area is on the opposite side of the road from the hotel. The map tells me that there was a Roman camp here. The camp was probably built by the Romans during their conquest of the Ordovices, which is a Welsh tribe in the late 70s. The camp would have held up to 2,000 Roman legionnaires and their baggage train. From this junction, the road runs up through the Llanberis Pass and crosses the mountains and comes down on the other side and goes on to Llanberis. I should mention that most of my Insta360 video is going to be fairly low resolution, as unfortunately it's in 720 HD. The camera does support up to 4K, but at least I get my entire trip in on this one card. So this area is stunningly beautiful. I haven't climbed here before. I have climbed in the Scottish Highlands, but I've not actually climbed here before. I have in my youth once tried to actually climb this mountain, but didn't get any further than Llanberis. Two of my brothers, when they were younger, did actually climb another mountain, Eryri, which is 47 miles roughly to the south. Anyway, you can see as we're going up on the left side of the road, you'll be able to see Eryri or Snowdon, which again is the highest mountain in Wales at 3,560 feet. Now, when I was younger that seemed pretty high, but in the decade and a half that I've been living in British Columbia, not to mention other places I've been, it's realigned my, I guess, sensibilities about what is and is not a high mountain. So I actually live at the base of a mountain in British Columbia, and that mountain is well over 4,000 feet tall. I know it's really considered to be, quite a small mountain. This mountain's up over 11,000 feet tall in the coastal mountain range, and I don't know what the height of Mount Baker is over the border in the US, but it's absolutely immense. Which is not to throw shade, as the Americans would say, on the mountains here. And the landscape is absolutely stunning. So, to my right would be the Eryri mountain range, and on the left side will be the Snowdon Massif, including Eryri, Cribcoch. This is Penny Pass, which is the highest point in the Llanberis Pass. Hello, this is the ranger station I saw on the map.
The wall. Inside the cones there.
Ah, all right, thank you. Oh. This is a view looking to the east, looking downhill. And this is looking uphill towards Eryri. Oh, there's sheep, not snow. Alright. Sadly, I don't have time to climb the mountain myself today. Now I'm going to head down the west side, continuing down the Llanberis pass towards Llanberis and then eventually Caernarfon. The landscape is very rocky, devoid of trees. Well, except for that one. It's very beautiful. First place I will get to when I get down this mountain is Llanberis, which is a village. You'll see a number of place names in Wales which use Nant, which means a stream. Motorcycle. Must be a very popular road with motorcyclists. But I've seen far more cars. I'll try and figure out the meanings of some of the place names as I go by, if I'm not actually able to research them. I find the Welsh language fascinating, I always have. One thing I find interesting is the phonetic values that they apply to the same Roman alphabet characters, or how can I put it, represent different sounds sometimes in other languages, similar to German. So I think Bach. You see two D's, it's pronounced th, like in them. Two F's are f. One F is usually a V, v. One L is an L. Two L's is a sound that doesn't exist in the English phonetics, which is usually called the shaw. It sounds like you put the tip of your tongue up to the roof of your mouth behind your teeth and you essentially blow. EH, that's it. W is a vowel, usually sounds like oo. The letter Y can sound like E or I or depending on where it is placed. This village is Llanberis, which means Peris stream. Peris will be the same Peris that you have in the town that's going to be coming up after this, which will be Llanberis. B or P, the plosives, it sometimes changes from a B to a P, and I've seen some other Welsh words as well. You see it, for instance, in the Welsh word for sun, mabon or mapon, usually shortened to map or ap or mab or ap. One of my ancestral families on my father's side are the Apoans, which means son of Owen, but that could also be expressed as Mab Owen, or it could be Map Owen. In theory, the name Bowen is a shortened version of Mab Owen, and so forth. But anyway, sometimes a B, sometimes a P. I am now in Llanberis. The last time I was here was well over 30 years ago. This town is named for a saint, in this case Saint Pedis. Llan again is usually a church or holy place, so Llanberis would be, let's say, the Church of Pedis, is an early Welsh saint. The town is also home to several important historical sites, the most important of which is Cathedral, which I'll be visiting later. There's also the Church of St. Padarn and Capel Coch, the Red Chapel. The town sits on the shore of Llanberis, which is a lake that is 2 miles long and was glacially formed. This is where the train starts, so if you don't feel like walking up the mountain, there is a train that will take you up. 2 trains, I understand. I believe one's a steam train and the other one's diesel, but that's the station where they start. On my right side is the lake. Can't quite see it beyond the buildings. Lots of tourists here. I've never been in Wales during the tourist season before, so, or in the summer for that matter. A little bit different. So I seem to be the only one in the entire country who's sticking to the speed limits, but I'm taking these speed limits very seriously. Unfortunately, 20 miles per hour for most of the way through any of the urbanized areas. Been entirely too many signs warning me about speed cameras, the majority of which I think are bold-faced lies. There's the lake. And time to stop for fuel. One thing that confused me quite a bit yesterday was none of the petrol stations have pay at the pump. Something, to be honest, when I was young, no petrol stations had pay at the pump either. I'm not quite sure when it came along, I don't really remember now. But been around long enough, at least in Canada, that I've gotten used to it. So I feel like it's back in the days when I first started riding, you pay and then you have to get off, go inside and pay at the counter. Which adds a few more minutes at least. Anyway, last time I rode in Wales was over 30 years ago. I think it was about 1994. And it's just, not just Wales, it was the same in England. So apparently innovations like pay at the pump have not caught on yet in Britain. Makes me wonder what happens when you need fuel at, say, 3 o'clock in the morning. And petrol stations all open. Also, Llanrug. So this is apparently the largest village in the Caernarfon area. The old name of this village was Llanfihangel Inogrug. I I think. Again, I apologise for butchering Welsh. That was derived from the name of a saint, the Church of Saint Mihangel. This little village is a popular point for anglers, and there's a fish hatchery here as well. Now heading for Pontrug, which would be pont meaning a bridge. And this would presumably be the bridge. A bit tight. This is Caernarfon. It's a very beautiful town. Caernarfon is a royal town and a port. It sits on the coast of Gwynedd, on the eastern shore of the Menai Strait. It is opposite Ynys Môn, or the island which is called Anglesey, off the northwest tip of Wales. Population is 9,852. Like most of what we've been going through for the last, I guess, day, this was the territory of the ancient Welsh tribe, the Ordovices. I'm just going to use the term Welsh whenever I'm talking about the Britons, because that's basically what the Anglo-Saxons called them, all the Britons, rather than using it in the sense of the modern day state of, or I should say nation. This is a town square. Very beautiful. I wouldn't want to ride on these paving stones when they are wet. So the Romans actually built a fort here called Saguntium, which was built in order to subjugate the Ordovices. The Romans occupied the area until 382 AD, after which it was eventually incorporated into the kingdom of Gwynedd. Gwynedd, interestingly enough, was actually one of several kingdoms founded on the west coast of Britain in the, let's say, 6th century, 5th to 6th century, by Irish colonists in Scotland, in Wales and in Cornwall. Here they were basically absorbed into the Welsh culture and language, whereas in Scotland they formed the Kingdom Dalriata, which was actually headquartered in the north of Ireland and ruled some of the Western Isles, basically in Argyll, parts of western Scotland. They eventually became dominant, and through intermarriage and conquest of the Picts eventually formed the Kingdom Ulba, which was Gaelic speaking, and then it eventually subsumed the other parts of what's now Scotland. So most of what is now Scotland would have originally been speaking Common Brittonic, which is the ancestral language for modern day Welsh, and also Cornish and Breton in France.
A wedyn mae cael golwg yma fo hyn yma, a gan ei weld beth yn mynd. Dyna'n iawn yma. Dora nhw o,
And here we have the famous Caernarfon Castle, or Castell Caernarfon in Welsh. Well, the name Caernarfon actually means the fortress in the land opposite Mon, that's the island again, Anglesey. Yeah, whether that refers to this castle or the more ancient Roman fortress, that I'm not certain of. However, I suspect probably the latter. So the castle here was not actually built by the Welsh. It is actually an English castle. In the 11th century, so the late 11th century, William the Conqueror invaded Cymru, and he ordered the construction of a motte and bailey castle at Caernarfon, but his invasion was not successful, and Wales remained independent until around 1283. In the 13th century, Llywelyn ap Griffith, ruler of Gwynedd, refused to swear allegiance to King Edward I of England, prompting the English conquest of Gwynedd and the construction of Caernarfon Castle, after which this town became the centre of the English government in North Wales. However, all attempts to erase the culture and the Welsh language failed, and today Caernarfon currently includes the highest percentage of Welsh speakers in the country. Walls were also erected around the town between the years 1283 and 1292. I'll be passing through the town wall shortly, so you'll get to see that. I think this is one of the most beautiful settlements in all of Britain. Not only do you have the castle and the square, the architecture is all quite lovely. This is the town wall that I'm about to pass through. Nice to see it still intact. I'll be leaving Caernarfon now, and I'll be heading north to Bangor. So this road is the A487, and it will run along the coast. It's about 9 miles to Bangor. Nice how close everything is in Wales. This is just a little side trip. I want to have a look at some of the architecture. Here you can see the water ahead of me. That will be the Menai Strait. That strait is one of the two places in the world that have the highest tides. I believe this is the highest, the Menai Strait. The other one is in Nova Scotia, or rather it's between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, which is Bay Fundy. I've been there as well because I lived in Nova Scotia for many years. The two of them have the highest tides in the world. On the other side of the Menai Strait is Ynysmon, Anglesey. I've been there before as well, but sadly the view is mostly going to be blocked along this road by houses, trees, walls, hedgerows. I am now entering Bangor. So this is where I probably spent most of my time in my youth, because I had friends who were studying here. So this is the oldest city in Wales. It has a population of 15,060 people. Bangor's right to be recognised as a city was based on the fact that it was home to a cathedral. The cathedral here, Bangor Cathedral, started out as a monastery, which is on the same site. It was built in the early 6th century by Saint Daniel, who was the first bishop of Bangor. The name Bangor referred to a wattled enclosure which probably surrounded the monastery. The bishops of Bangor effectively ruled the city for much of its history under the authority of the kings of Gwynedd. It's still one of the smallest cities in Britain, but for much of its history it was considerably smaller. When the mail coach route was established from London to Dublin, which ran to Anglesey, to the ferry in Anglesey, it passed close to Bangor, and as a result there was a marked increase in trade. Here's the cathedral, by the way. And that's what caused the city to grow from the early 19th century, or 18th century. Important industries here were shipbuilding and tourism. Also an important educational centre. It's home to Bangor University, where my friends were students, which was established in 1885. Several other institutions. A Harp Inn. A harp that once... No, that's technically an Irish song, so not appropriate for here. I don't particularly have a reason to visit Bangor at the moment, as everyone I know here, as far as I know, has left. They mostly move south to Cardiff. But I wanted to come as I was close anyway. I'm just sort of rolling through my youth. It's a very nostalgic journey for me. So one thing that's been a little bit difficult to readjust to is not waving to every other motorcyclist that I passed. When I first moved to Canada, it was something that I found quite irritating at the beginning. I mean, it's friendly, it is nice, it's nice to greet each other, but you know, when you're on a popular motorcycling road and you, like, say, to see this guy, and you pass a couple of hundred motorcyclists and every single one of them waves, it gets a little bit tiring. In any event, you know, I've acquired the habit now after being in Canada for so long. But here, nobody does it. I'm told that's partially because, and I never realized this when I was younger, but riding on the left-hand side of the road, your left hand is on your opposite side from the motorcyclist that you're passing. Of quite distinctive architecture on these back streets. This is the northern boundary of the city. You can't go any further than this because if you do, you'll be swimming. Looking across the water to Port Penrhyn. And on the other side of the water again you can see Anglesey. I've had my fun, so I'll be heading back to Caernarfon now. Alright, I'm back in the square at Caernarfon. I stopped here and had lunch, a sandwich and had a drink, and now I'm ready to move on. Most of the bikes that were here before are gone, but I see this big Goldwing is here. I actually chatted with quite a few motorcyclists here, so it's nice that you can park on the sidewalk here. You can't do this anywhere in Wales. I did talk to some of the other riders when I arrived, and they told me that you basically have to know where, or ask. But in this spot, it is permitted to park on the pavement. Getting a little sad saying goodbye. It's been over 30 years since my last visit. If I wait another 30 years, I'll be lucky if I'm alive. to head back to Llanberis, then I'll visit Cathedral, and then I'll probably head back to my hotel for a bit to recharge batteries. I'm going to pull over for the umpteenth time to let faster moving cars pass. As I've observed several times already, I am the only person, I think, in all of Britain who's riding at the speed limit. I'll pretend that I'm normally this law-abiding. And time for another fuel stop in the same place where I got my fuel this morning. This is Mais Gerthi, by the way, which I think mais, I believe, is a field and Gerthi is a garden, so must have something to do with agriculture. Suzuki GSXR 125. There's lots of beautiful 125 motorcycles available here that are not imported into North America. We get like Honda Groms and Cubs. I do think, despite what the dealerships there tell me, that there would be a market for bikes like this in Canada and North America in general. And I'm back in Llanberis. There's Dolbadarn Castle. I'll be going there. And the lake is the one I've mentioned several times. Llanberis, which is named after Saint Padarn. It is 2 miles long and apparently 94 miles deep. I have quite a bit to say about the castle on the other side of the lake, but I'll wait until I get there. If I had my inflatable kayak with me, I'd probably take it out on that lake. Have a battle with all the other rowers. It's quite the striking monument. I should really have had a look at that. There's probably a plaque that will tell me about it. I will take a wild guess that it probably has something to do with Llywelyn the Great. I have arrived at Dolbadarn Castle in Welsh. Castell Dolbadarn. This castle is a ruin of great historical significance. Only one round tower survives. There was another square tower and a curtain wall. Early 13th century by Llywelyn ab Iorwerth, who was king of Gwynedd from 1195 to 1240, known as Llywelyn Fawr or Llywelyn the Great. Here I am again, 31 years. It's good to be back. I feel like this is a good place and time to recite an old poem I wrote more than 30 years ago, around the time I came here last. Feeling nostalgic lately. Time is a wall between us, years spent far apart. More than the ocean separates me from my true heart. Distance makes all distant, as time makes all strange. The familiar and the intimate all change. As my words must suffice where presence is denied, to keep you in my heart and mind, if not at my side. As I mentioned before, King Edward I of England captured Gwynedd from the last king, Llywelyn ap Griffith, who was a grandson of Llywelyn the Great. He executed Llywelyn. This castle, they took some of the timbers from it to build his English castle at Caernarfon, partially for symbolic reasons, and over time it fell into ruin. Just walking back to my bike. What you cannot see is I'm carrying my heavy camera bag, the Ventura pack from the motorcycle, my helmet, and all my gear. There are quite a few young people who hike their way in here. They, of course, are wearing t-shirts, short, little else. What I'm trying to say is this is hot work, even though it's not a particularly hot day. I'm heading back towards Llanberis, and after that I will climb back up the Llanberis Pass to Penny Pass and then drop down the other side to get back to my hotel in Gwynedd. this should be Llanberis again. I'm now back on the eastern side of the mountain, and I'm going to prepare to say goodbye and thank you all for watching my video so much. We're looking down on Gwynedd. This is a road that goes to Bethgelert. The mountain going up on the other side of the valley there, that would be Eryri or Snowdon. This is looking back to the north, and there's Gwynedd, sorry. Strikingly beautiful landscape. Anyway, thank you all for watching my video. I hope you will come back for the third installment, my long ride back to Essex. Thank you again, and if you feel inclined, please subscribe to my channel. I know the quality of my videos isn't great, but I am just sort of starting out, and hopefully they will continue to improve as I learn more about editing videos. Thank you and goodbye.